Well, hello again and welcome back all my YouTubers. Today we're going to take a look at Steve Denton's 1986 CR250 Honda Titanium. Now the word titanium in the bike's description does not imply that the bike is constructed from titanium, although every nut, bolt and other type of fastener is made of titanium and engineered by the Phil Denton Engineering Company. Now this bike was built by Steve Denton of P.D.E Engineering in Llanrwst, North Wales in the UK, who supply parts and services for all Honda twin shock and Evolution dirt bikes. Now Steve wanted to build a showpiece for his P.D.E company, showing that they did more than just renovating and supplying parts for twin shock bikes, and he knew exactly what he wanted to build. He wanted to do a modern update on the factory Honda CR250 of 1986, although this one would be fitted with a rear disc brake. Now this particular bike started its life as an old battered 1986 CR250, although when Steve bought the bike from an internet site and stripped it completely down, there wasn't very many of the parts that could be used, so it was going to be quite a project in the end. Now when Steve got the frame completely stripped, one of the first jobs he had to undertake was to repair these bottom frame rails, which were completely and almost crushed flat for some strange reason. And also the other part was to repair these footrest pinholes, which were worn to excess. Now the subframe on the actual frame was also damaged and bent, and this was repaired by Steve, and then the completed frame was stripped bare to back to bare metal and then painted. Now when it came to the motor, there wasn't a lot of the original engine that could be used on this project, and that's why Steve then started to surf the internet once again, and he managed to locate a replacement set of crankcases, which also came with a free transmission. Now it also had a cylinder barrel and a 1991 CR250 two-piece alloy clutch cover. Now of course all these parts were stripped bare and vapor blasted clean, so they could be thoroughly inspected before use. Now the cylinder barrel was re-Nickel plated and the ports were just given a mild clean-up. Then the whole lot, along with a pair of billet alloy Honda racing clutch and ignition covers, were then sent off to be powder coated in this beautiful satin black. Now naturally during the rebuild of the motor, a new crankshaft was fitted along with a brand new Wiseco piston. Now a full set of seals, bearings and gaskets obviously were used in the rebuild, along with a brand new billet clutch basket. In fact, the list of new old stock parts that were used in the build of the engine alone ran to 3 pages of A4, so that will give you a small idea as to how many brand new parts went into building the engine alone. Now the ignition system of course was completely stripped and refurbished with all brand new wiring, heat-proof sleeving and all necessary connectors. Now when it came to the hubs and wheels, Steve had decided that he wanted to use a later mid-90s 6-bolt disc front hub and a 4-bolt disc rear hub. Now the 86 factory bike did use a 6-bolt front hub, and Steve prefers the way that the later hubs look. Now the 4-bolt rear hub was chosen as it looks a lot less older than the 6-bolt 87 and 88 rear hubs. But Steve couldn't leave them standard though. He plonked them on the lathe and skimmed all the casting marks off. The hubs were then sent off along with the engine and cases for powder coating once again in this beautiful satin black. Steve said he didn't like the old-fashioned chain adjusters on the 86 model, as the 86 and 87 suspension setup is almost identical. The swing arm of course was just a simple swap, and the 87 arm already had the brake caliper stopper in situ. Now when it came to the front suspension of the new bike, the fork tubes were re-hard chrome plated and the lowers were vapor blasted and then reassembled with a brand new set of seals and bushes. Now the lower damper adjusters were completely seized when Steve started the renovation on the forks, so he machined a brand new pair of adjusters in stainless steel. Now new Honda gaiters along with the original zinc plated clips were fitted, and a set of Phil Denton Engineering's own billet triple clamps were also fitted to secure them to the frame. Now a new set of stainless steel studs and nuts were also fitted for the axle clamps. Now the wheels of course are gold anodised XL rims built with brand new stainless steel spokes and shod in a pair of Bridgestone Battlecross X30 tyres. Now the exhaust is an American-made Pro Circuit expansion chamber, although Steve had to manufacture his very own connecting pipe and bespoke tailpipe to complete the exhaust system. Now these superb looking P.D.E tailpipes and the brackets and all connections are made of course in-house at the P.D.E engineering works in the UK, and if you require any more information on the manufacture of any of these P.D.E products, just contact them directly at their website address. Now we can have a better look at the entire exhaust system on this machine with the tank and some of the side panels removed, and you can see just the exquisite engineering that's went into building this exhaust. Now the original plastics that came with the battered old 86 donor bike had to be binned because they were well beyond repair, but a reasonable original replacement set were found on the internet, and these were sent directly to Phil Cox of Plastic Renovations in the USA. Now Phil did a superb job on renovating these old faded plastics, and when they came back to the Phil Denton Engineering Workshop they were just about in as brand new condition. Now when it came to the fuel tank, Steve opted to go for a US style fuel tank for this Honda. Now these are slightly smaller than the European versions, and Steve seemed to think that this fitted the bike much nicer than the European fuel tanks. Now the original seat base from the 86 donor bike was reused and renovated, and then a new Honda seat foam was fitted along with a new Evo MX seat cover. Now the rear shock on this build had been left to one side because Steve wasn't sure what he wanted to do with it, whether to go with a complete new works performance unit or just rebuild the original, but with the way the rest of the bike was heading, he just decided to go ahead and rebuild the original. Now the shock body was first vapor blasted and cleaned and then sent out for hard anodizing. Now the reservoir was anodized bronze, and then a custom braided steel hose was made up, of course in titanium, with the usual banjo bolts to hold it in place. Now the lower adjuster was completely seized, so it was then taken apart and Steve machined a brand new replacement from of course titanium. Now loads of other new old stock parts were also fitted inside the shock, and case suspension then revalved and rebuilt the unit. Now of course many of the other associated suspension parts, as you can see here, these beautifully prepared linkages are all made in-house at P.D.E Engineering. Of course many of the other auxiliary items, including these beautifully engineered triple clamps and handlebar clamps, are all built in-house at the P.D.E Engineering Works in Wales in the UK. Now of course in this video I cannot list each and every brand new part that was either bought or manufactured for this build, because the actual list of the parts and the work that went into building this bike would be 3 times longer than the actual video is itself. Now when this bike was finished about July 2016, it was scheduled to be raced by American legend Todd DeHoop in the Team USA at the Farleigh Castle Motocross des Nations. Now with some of the plastics removed on the machine, you get a better idea of the internal workings of this beautifully engineered machine. Now these lovely GMX alloy radiators are complemented by these beautiful high quality Samco blue coolant hoses. Of course this video can only show you 1 or 2 parts of the exquisite engineering that's went into building this fantastic machine. Many of the other parts you don't see, including brackets etc, have all been manufactured to the very highest of tolerances by those guys at P.D.E Engineering. Now Steve originally made all the fasteners for this machine in stainless steel until he decided to go just that one better and change every fastener and bolt and nut to titanium. So there is a lot of work that has went into the building of this fantastic bike. So there you have it. That's Steve Denton's 1986 CR250 Honda with all its titanium fasteners. Now I know the one thing you're wanting to know is, what does it sound like?